You're listening to Tabletop Arcanum, a podcast dedicated to learning and exploring the hobby of tabletop gaming. Your hosts are Justin Taylor and Richard Geese, so sit back and relax as we talk, discuss, and joke our way through the hobby we love so much.
Welcome to Tabletop Arcanum with your hosts,
Justin
and Ricky. Today we're coming at you with the exciting world of board game storage. That's right, you heard it here. We're going to be talking to you about inserts, outserts, and what to put it on.
Whoa. Really?
I guess so.
Okay.
I'm amped about this. Are you amped about this, Justin?
I like putting things in a box. The question is, what's in the box?
The box is in the box.
So are your components, cards, and other things. So, I guess it's not the head of your wife?
Debatable.
We'll never know.
Huh.
So, yeah, definitely want to talk about storage today, because if you start getting the hobby, you start getting too deep, you can start getting this collection of games, and then you need to find a place to put them, and then these games come with expansions, and it's really nice to have one box per game, not one box plus this expansion, plus that expansion, plus this add-on, plus this thing I found on the internet. Yeah,
Definitely.
So it helps come up with a couple other things, and we'll also be talking a little bit about some of the advantages of especially the inserts for particular games. And I think we touched a little bit during our Lexicon episode when we were talking about setup and teardown times, where those inserts could be very beneficial. So we'll be touching a little bit more on that when we get to our main topic. But first, we should hit our roll recap and talk about what we've been playing since we recorded and talked about the Blackstone Fortress.
And I'm going to go first because you always have an onslaught of games, and I don't have Harry Potter this time. So my list is very short, but at the same time, it's filled with great games. I played Boss Monster. Played a lot of Boss Monster. I've introduced it now to my niece, who is 13, and my nephew, who's actually 7. So quite a young crowd. It's a little bit hard to work with a 7-year-old because there's a lot of text you need to read, and he doesn't understand necessarily all the mechanics, but he just had a blast with it anyways. He actually won a game. I kind of started chugging down my own dungeon so things would start going towards him.
Gotcha.
And not my niece. But just seeing him excited about it really made it good. I did play... we got together this weekend and played Betrayal Legacy.
Yes.
And that was a lot of fun. We're only about a third of the way through, but...
Yep.
I'm really, really enjoying it. Really enjoying it.
Yeah. We will be releasing, once I get the time to edit, the recordings of those games.
The 8 hours of recording we have for the 4 games we played.
Over 4 games, so it's actually not too bad. Should probably pare it down to about an hour per game, give or take. The later ones started taking longer because we started getting more and more stuff kind of unlocked, per se. Mm-hmm.
The house started expanding. We started having more tiles so we can find more stuff.
So the rough idea is the game is a prelude to the actual house, Betrayal House on the Hill. You start in 1666, and you start with like maybe a dozen house tiles.
Little tiny shack.
And most of them are the outside. Mm-hmm. So it's like a tiny little shack, a couple rooms, nothing too crazy in there. And each game you play, you get some more tiles to add to the stack, because over the years, and like we're talking like it's like 20, 30 year jumps, more of the house is renovated and expanded. So the story of the house is actually already grown. And in just 4 games out of that we've played, we actually already even have stories about them.
Yeah.
And a little bit of like, I think it was during game 4, it came out of like, oh, wow. Remember that tile in the original game that we're like, oh, I wonder whatever happened to that room. Mm-hmm. Well, we played the story of what happened to that room. And so I'll be really excited to do that. I do have to put a caveat. Yes, we did start another Legacy game, and I do have the recordings for the Pandemic Legacy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna once we get back to that, I'll and get more games on that. I'll work on that one too. For now, I'm just gonna kind of put that in the back burner. Again, my plan is to release these as side content and continue our regular scheduling programming, so that people can listen to them or not at their will. Because if you want to play the games, spoiler alert, I'm not really going to filter them too much.
It's really hard to play that game and not
be really excited about it. And
yeah, really excited, but
process.
also, it's hard to record those games and not spoil it because it is such a linear story. Or it's like the choose your own adventure of betrayal.
And your mileage may vary because we had to make some choices and the way some of our games went. Some of the choices we made and some of the way the games ended definitely impacted what came next.
Yeah. So
very excited.
There's cards we threw out, destroyed, did all kinds of different things too.
Got rid of a whole tile once.
Yeah. And then, last but not least, I was a foolish fool and I bought Emperor Palpatine, and I also bought the Royal Imperial Guard for Legion, because as if I didn't have enough to paint, and I keep telling people I'm painting, and I keep getting called out for not posting any pictures of my paintings.
Still haven't seen a single painted picture yet.
I've shown you one.
One? Was it?
I've shown you one.
Was it on the internet?
It wasn't on the internet.
See, doesn't count.
I'm a very private man. That's my wife.
So, any other games?
Other than that, I'm trying to think if I played anything else too exciting. I played that Rick and Morty game again, and unfortunately the name escapes me. It was an okay game. The kids love that TV show, so I'm more than happy to sit down with them and run through it.
Gotcha. Other very important question. Have you ever heard of the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise? You should talk to Palpatine about it. He knows all about him.
I didn't know if you were looking for a specific response from me from that.
Nope. Just wanted a reaction.
Hopefully eventually they... Oh, I don't know if we announced, but... Oh, no, we did announce that they're coming out with... We talked about the new expansion they announced with Jin Urso and...
Yes.
Yeah, never mind then.
And we'll get to this week's announcements when we talk about new items and items things too. So before we get too far ahead of ourselves...
Your role recap.
I've played a little Keyforge, not as much as I was a couple weeks ago. Slowed down a little bit on it, which is probably for the better. In my sanity, did get to bust out the Reckoners, which was a Kickstarter I received a little bit ago, based off of the Brandon Sanderson Reckoners book series, which is a co-op dice chucking game. A lot of fun there. Got to try out the Heroes of Terranoth, which is the Fantasy Flight's reskin / slight upgrade of their old Warhammer Adventure card game. But since they lost the GW license, they had to kill that game. This is kind of the replacement with a little bit of a fresh coat of paint and a little bit more tweak to the gears. I liked it. My only major issue, other than it's up to 4 players, and I have plenty of games that stop at 4 players, that I'm getting really, really sick of that restriction, because usually when I get people together, it's like 5-6 of us. So these 4-player games have a hard time hitting the table. But the character growth and upgrades that you can get in that don't really carry over from session to session. So you kind of get your upgrade through the story and scenario that you're playing, and then everything resets the next time you play. You don't really get the campaign feel out of it like you do in Descent, the board game. Same universe, same characters, same even subclasses. I want to see a little bit more of a campaign to it, like Arkham Horror has, where things can persist from game to game. This weekend I played a lot of Digital Scythe.
Yeah, how is
It is a very good translation of the actual board game into it's on Steam, and they do have like a tabletop simulator version of it where you're manipulating the pieces, but they also released a digital version where it's more point and click, and like I'm gonna move this guy to here, and it animates it and does it for you. Games are fast, they're fun. Best of all, there's no shuffling, cleanup, setup, takedown. I can get through. I got through like 4 games of this weekend because I was just really getting used to it. If you do try it out, I do recommend the tutorials, even if you know how to play Scythe, mainly because I had to figure out how the game wanted me to use the interface to do the things I wanted to do. It does a pretty good job of, like, if you're going to, like, drop an action or, like, oh, you totally can do this other thing. Are you sure you want to end your turn? Like, it tries to prompt you on that, but I had to figure out how to move a piece. It was kind of awkward at first, but the tutorials do a very good job of showing that off and teaching you how to play the game at the same time if you're not familiar with the board game. And then you talked about Betrayal Legacy. After you had left, we stuck around and played a couple more games. Played Cardline. We played, which was Timeline, but based off of countries and their different stats, like square mileage, population density. That is way harder, and I think everyone felt dumber at the table. Like, we should really know our world geography and cultures and at least, like, things a little bit better. So, a little bit tougher than the standard Timeline. Played a game of Professor Evil in the Citadel of Time, which is always a fun co-op. And busted out Gizmos and taught that to the guys, too. So, lots of gaming, lots of fun. Personally excited, Carcassonne comes out on the Switch on Friday.
You've almost talked me into it. Mostly what you said was, Carcassonne's coming out on the Switch on Friday, and I said, maybe I should pre-order that.
Right. So that was my role recap. Moving on to more news, and talked about Carcassonne. We talked a little bit about Legion stuff coming up. There's a couple big announcements for Legion.
Big. Exciting. Just when I thought that I already knew that Chewbacca and the Wookiees were going to be coming out. Those should be out by the end of the year, so sometime this month. They did announce back at GenCon it was going to be Q4.
Yep.
But on top of that, they just announced
Director
Kennick and the Death Troopers.
The Death Troopers look sweet.
Yeah, and that was right on top of Jyn Erso and the Pathfinders.
Yeah.
Which these models, all of them just look so great, and I'm so excited for it, but I just need to start painting so that when they come out, I don't feel guilty about buying more and more and more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the catch-22 of a hobby painter is there's always unpainted minis somewhere.
Yeah, and they've been really also hyping up their
We haven't seen any vehicles recently, though. I really want to.
Yeah, we haven't seen any vehicles aside from the ATRT speeder bike, and then I think ATST were the only ones out right now.
Airspeeder too.
Airspeed. Oh yeah, T-47.
Yeah. The snow speeder, if you will.
Yeah.
That's it.
We also got those E-Web blasters and the I can't remember
the Rebel Blazer cannon.
Yeah. So,
I can't count those as vehicles.
No, I know, but at least a lot more heavy artillery. And...
Yeah, interesting stuff to put to the game, but where's the rest of our vehicles?
Yeah.
Where's the other neat stuff?
You start looking at stuff like Warhammer, where they make those extremely extravagant giant models, and I'm just waiting for one day where I can bust out a AT-AT, destroy the entire map.
Yep.
But they also have been hyping up the Clone Wars era RPG.
Yep.
Fantasy Flight has been releasing a few things here and there, teasing it.
And on the tailcoat of that, they were showing off Wave 3 for X-Wing 2.0, which is when the Galactic Republic and the Separatist factions are going to be added to the game, bringing that era to X-Wing.
That may be what gets me into X-Wing, unfortunately. Unfortunately.
Fortunately, I'll have a new X-Wing pilot to face. Unfortunately, you're going to be spending money on X-Wing stuff.
Yeah.
Don't worry. We'll get you through it.
Don't tell my girlfriend.
So on top of all of that, the other a long-awaited news that I'm really just waiting to happen at this point is the new deluxe box for the Game of Thrones card game. The Greyjoys deluxe box, because each house kind of gets their own big box. Mm-hmm. And ironically, it's still, quote-unquote, on the boat. So I'm not sure when Greyjoys are going to hit land, if ever at this point, because there are things that were on the boat listed with them, and then all of a sudden other things are coming out, but Greyjoy is still on that boat. The Kraken just, it likes it. They like the water, that's all. And very soon, Wave 2, next week, I believe it's the 12th, is when Wave 2 of X-Men comes out, as well as I'm seeing a lot of really more stronger ship dates for the Plaid Hat games, Gen 7. That's the new Crossroads game that is coming off the tail end of Dead of Winter, which is totally different, but uses that same Crossroads mechanic we talked about on our GenCon episode. And I did again when I was talking about the Alliance Open House, and I got to demo it again. I'm really stoked for that game coming out, and it should be out before Christmas. So, yay. Hope to get to play a lot of that very soon.
Yeah.
Speaking of other new things, today on Kickstarter was a whole bunch of new stuff this week. Several and very long anticipated games, and a couple other ones that are very interesting that have popped up on kind of a flash. So the very first...
well, first things first, let's talk about the elephant in the room.
It's not an elephant.
Not the elephant. I'm talking about Duelosaur Island and your Dinosaur Island.
Totally
new
liquid.
arrivals. These things are beautiful. I love the art. I love everything about them. How hyped are you about this right now?
Pretty stoked. I did get them today. Finally, I didn't play for the split shipping, so everything came at once. But Dinosaur Island and Duelosaur Island came out together. For me, did get to play Dinosaur Island already. It is a wonderful worker placement about building your own dinosaur theme park and making new dinosaurs out of genetics. And I think I've seen this someplace before, but it can't end badly, period. No, it's fine.
Yeah,
it's
Billy
safe.
and the Clonosaurus.
Yeah, it's fine. So new on Kickstarter, recently launched was by Simon, was the Blood Rage digital campaign. So they're making a digital version of the game Blood Rage. Has essentially two pledge levels. There's the $15 digital pledge, which gets you the game on Steam and to back the project. So, by the way, this thing already funded, so if you want Blood Rage on Steam, just toss them $15 and they'll get you a code when it comes out. That they're aiming for is end of next year, so it might be a while, but
it's worth it.
The other thing that they're doing is a physical Viking pledge. It starts out at $60, but they have a couple of add-ons to it. It's a lot of the stuff. If you missed the first Kickstarter for Blood Rage and picked it up at retail, jump on this. There is not only you get the digital version, but you get alternate sculpts for the 4 monsters that were Kickstarter exclusives. A officially like 7th clan to play that is going to be a Kickstarter exclusive, along with all the cards and things that go along with it, so you can play 5 players. All of the gods of Asgard are getting golden versions of themselves, which are not only like twice the size of the original mini, but like put in like a nice gold plastic instead. Including the first player token, which will be a nice 3D token in gold. But as far as those optional buys, you can also add on the 3D sculpted clan tokens for the original clans, which were an old Kickstarter exclusive, as well as, due to popular demand, they're putting a oversized playmat as an option.
Beautiful.
Much like they did when they did for Rising Sun. So definitely, they're doing a very short campaign of this. As of today, there's still only 4 days left. So by the time I put this out, there may be only 1 or 2 days left. I apologize if this is the first time you're hearing for it, but jump on it. Blood Rage Digital. Already funded, so just give them the money that you want. Yesterday, Cultist Storm, a pretty interesting Lovecraftian game that had caught my eye. A lot of hype around it. It's still in its funding stage, still has like 40 days to go, so they're about halfway, 2/3 funded at this point when I'm looking at it. So they're going to probably hit it, considering it's only been 2 days. They only have an all-in pledge, which is kind of on the high end. It's $139. It's a card game, homage to Lovecraft with a lot of narrative and story. The game box itself is like this Necronomicon tome. Everything's kind of going to be like this all-or-nothing sort of game. 12 different expansions, thousands of cards. They even developing a soundtrack, and they got a composer to do some like background music to it.
I love when they go for those tiny little details.
It's co-op, 3 to 5 players with 1 to 6 with the expansions. So it will be eventually solo, but they have a narrative mode. They have a behind the scenes mode. They're really trying to play into the Lovecraft board game phenomenon, but also trying to keep a lot of the narrative and a lot of the roots back to H.P. Lovecraft himself, and the fact that it was a novel or novellas that started it all into this crazy hype that we have. So take a look at that. And then the big Kickstarter elephant in the room right now is Tainted Grail, The Fall of Avalon by Awakened Realms. This thing funded in 1 minute.
Good gravy.
Co-op board game set in a grim King Arthur world, where Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table are all like gone, disappeared, and the darkness that they banished is like creeping back into the world. You play as like these up and coming heroes that probably shouldn't be in like this questing game. So 1 to 4 players, 2 to 3 hours. It's an open play system. The map itself you play out with like tarot size cards, so you kind of figure out what's going on. Awakened Realms has done some really big stuff in the past. This War of Mine, Epic, Lords of Hellas, and it's not Alien, but close enough that there was rumors about a Fox lawsuit called Nemesis. Big, beautiful games. These are things that I'm not 100% sure are going to come to retail. So I always will say, yes, I would back it if it's interesting to you, because it may never see a retail shelf at that point. They're a Polish company, so some of their games have hit retail, not all of them. And that does it about for Kickstarter.
That's our Kickstarter corner. Always fun. Always good to see. You know, I love that we live in the day and age that we're in, where if you have an idea, you can really get out there and sell it, and you can actually have the support of the community come out and...
Right. So let's go back into our main topic and talk about storage. We're going to hit 2 major levels of storage. We're going to talk about inserts for board games to help organize the game itself. And then we'll talk briefly a little bit about storing the boxes of all the games of your collection or so. Inserts have been super popular. Super popular.
I will say I do love seeing all the different inserts that take into account any expansions. For a long time I was always, no, I need to have more boxes to make my collection look more impressive. Till you realize that, okay, I need this game and this expansion. Where'd that expansion go?
Yeah.
So it's nice having everything all in one. And thanks to a bunch of either companies or the DIY community, this is starting to become more and more of a way for you to find ways to store what you want the way that you want it.
Right. So the big name that I kind of came across first when I started looking at board game solution options and seeing these inserts come through was Broken Token.
Broken Token almost broke my fingers. I'm very familiar with them. Carrying 40 pounds of wood through GenCon, Justin. How you doing?
All the balsa.
All the balsa.
Don't worry, I have about 40 pounds being shipped to me right now.
You foolish fool.
It's okay. They had it on sale at Black Friday, and I took advantage of it again.
Fair enough.
So I got a big staining assembly and varnishing, and yeah, I'm going to have to do a bunch of building for it. It'll be awesome when it's done. And that is the thing. They are unassembled balsa wood. You can stain them. You don't have to. They're kind of pre-treated where you can just kind of slap them in the box. Some of them are complete replacements where they replace the game box itself. Like they have a beautiful Firefly crate. They have one for Rising Sun that's like that too. But they, essentially it's supposed to be a complete storage solution from outside in. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, a lot of their stuff is in box, keeps the original box, you throw out the guts, and then it stores everything, including your token trays and things like that, where you pull pieces of it out. Lords of Waterdeep is a really good example. Every player gets a little tray of their pieces, and then I pull out another tray that has all of the global components of all the different cubes and all the different monies. And the setup and takedown is so much faster because it's literally pull this tray out, hand it to you, put this over here, and boom, the game's set up. I don't have to go through baggies and storage to do so. Some games really, really benefit from this when you have more and more pieces. Games like Feast of Odin or Caverna, these Uwe Rosenberg games that have so many pieces and so many tokens, look to these storage solutions to save you time. Mm-hmm. So Broken Token is the one that I personally favor. I've seen a couple others, but the majority of mine are Broken Token. Mm. It's kind of the first one I found, and a lot of the times they have the one for the game I'm looking for anyway, so I'll just keep going through them. Their shipping is pretty pricey because they are shipping 20, 30 pounds worth of balsa wood to you. So be prepared. I always do mass ordering where I try to bulk up as much as I can or wait for them to do
an event.
Like I picked up a really big one, like you were saying, at GenCon.
My fingers remember.
Your fingers remember. But they offered free shipping to GenCon. Mm-hmm. So all I had to do is go there and pick it up because I was already going there. So watch for deals like that. Daedalus Games also does wooden inserts as well. I've seen a couple of their inserts. I don't own any personally. They're a little bit fancier wood, it feels like. They're a little bit more that half step up. Not that you can't do it yourself with some nice staining and some TLC to a Broken Token, but Daedalus kind of sets the bar starting at that level. And their costs and their games are roughly comparable. Go 7 Gaming does inserts as well. Go 7 has done some very interesting ones because they were the first one out there to do like the Eldritch Horror expansions. So if one company doesn't have a game that you're particularly looking for, check some of these others because they don't all clone each other. They do different games at different times. So Folded Space is a newer one to me. They don't do wood. It's actually it's pretty much folded cardstock and cardboard, but in such a way where it's like heavy and resistant and
like thicker stock and
yep, and you can't get a splinter from it.
That is a plus right there.
Yeah.
Super paper cut maybe.
Yes, probably. The paper cut that will never end. So those are the big 4 that I've seen around as far as the made, kind of like pre-made
the
and
companies
pre-done.
that make them for you.
Mm-hmm. Broken Token, I know, was in stores at some points. They had to go back to standard single channel distribution straight through their website. Or some third-party vendors or Amazon, I think, have it now too. But they couldn't keep up with the demand of like actual distribution chains, which was unfortunate because I started seeing them in local gaming shops, and it was great because it was, as from the retailer's perspective of, hey, you just got this game, would you like the insert for it right now, and take care of your entire storage solution. Unfortunately, they just couldn't keep up with the demand to have that much product out at once. So, now you did see you mentioned some of the DIY stuff.
I mean, you definitely have things like 3D printing, which has come a long way in the past, probably 3 or 4 years.
3-4 years. Leaps and bounds in the last year too.
Yeah, you have a lot of communities who are coming together and making stuff for certain games. It is harder to find things specifically made, unless you're into some of the bigger games. But if you go out there into the community, you can find things that will work for certain things. If you need something for like a deck of cards or like something for certain things. Another nice thing is at that point, if you're 3D printing something, why not also take that extra step, replace those cardboard tokens with 3D printed tokens, and then you have everything all in one.
Yep.
Another good one is foam core.
Yes.
Which
the real DIY.
The real DIY. I'm not about to spend a couple $100s on a 3D printer or pay someone a couple $100s to 3D print me a bunch of stuff.
Or I'm not up to paying $20, $30, $40, $50 for a broken token.
Yeah.
The cost of the game to put an insert into it. Let me just get something slapped together.
And it's effective. If it works, it works, and that's the thing. It works, and you can customize it any way you want. When we talk about foam core, we're talking about a whole community that will take their games and they'll take sheets of foam, cut it up, and make it specific to their needs when it comes to the game. Very nice for people who have those games that don't have the following that you wish that they had. I love Harry Potter, and I have my problems with the box, but no one makes a box for you. You can't find a broken token. You can't find anything like that. Yeah, I could turn around and I can make my own foam core organizer for the box and have everything all in one.
Right.
And then we're gonna get into, your cheapest of the cheapest of the cheapest DIYs, and that's just putting stuff in baggies.
Yes.
And no matter what, chances are, even if you have an organizer in there, I'm still going to suggest these baggies. Honestly, you really think about it, they cost you a couple pennies a piece. And, if depending on what you buy, I know I have baggies coming out everywhere from just my Star Wars Legion. I keep those around purposely just to store tokens in.
I do the same thing with X-Wing.
Yeah.
There's so many different... So as you're collecting these games and as you're looking at these games, and they'll come with their little plastic bags for this component or that component, see if you can optimize it in a different way, and then salvage those bags for the next game. Mm-hmm. Dead of Winter, some of them actually even come with bags, like Dead of Winter. Mm-hmm. Dead of Winter actually comes with like more bags than I can even figure out what to do with into that game. There's literally like at one point I'm like, well, zombies are in this bag. Survivors are in this bag. This one type of token, which there's only 3 of them, are in this bag. I guess the first player token could get its own bag.
Yeah.
There's more bags than what you ever really need in that. So take a look. You might even have games that have bags that you can recycle or spread out over a couple games. And nothing really... If push comes to shove, just go get a box of...
Ziplocs.
The Ziploc snack bags is the ones I like because they're not the sandwich bag because I always found those too big.
Yeah, they're like half.
They're like half a sandwich bag.
Half the height.
Oh, so much better.
Yeah.
Because usually it's just tokens that you're putting in there, and you don't have that many tokens that a sandwich bag is enough. Or it is way too much. So once I discovered those snack bags, those were great. So
I'm a firm believer in bagging everything individually too. It makes startup and cleanup of a game so much easier because I need these tokens. Well, I have this single bag filled with them.
Yep.
Versus throwing everything back into the box and then having to split everything up before we play a game.
So top to bottom, we kind of went from the slightly more expensive end to the low cost DIY. Let's just get a solution now. Because I just ran to Walmart or wherever.
I need this thing to look nice so that I don't go crazy if I lose something.
Right. So the other piece that we'll touch a little bit on, and probably not as in detail because everyone's situations are going to be different, is how to display your collection or how to organize it. The number one thing in the community there that comes across is the IKEA solution. Called Cala. They call it the Calyx shelving system. They're literally cube, and they come in like various sizes. So you can get the cubes themselves are 13 by 13 inches, which fits almost every game box out there. There's a few oddballs like the big box versions of the Queen games. Or
Twilight Imperium.
Not as much the 4th edition, but 3rd edition. Those big, long boxes. Yes, they don't really fit well.
Your giant box of Sentinels of the Multiverse just sitting here.
Technically...
That is slightly too wide to fit in there. I'm looking at it.
No, it'll fit.
Yeah.
I'm not going to put it in there.
Yeah, don't put it in there.
But it would fit. So these Calyx shelving, they come in like 4 wide by 1 high, then 4 wide by 2 high, then 4 wide by, I think they do 3 high, but they definitely do like 4 by 4 or 5 by 5 is the really big one. So they come in different colors, they come in different sizes, and they are relatively stackable. So if you need to expand and like drop one on top of another, you can still do that. One of the things I have seen people do for those larger boxes is the way the shelves are put together. You can actually remove the center divider. You have to kind of make that conscious decision as you're assembling it, but you can remove like a center divider here or there to create like a double wide space. I've seen it work. Now this is an IKEA furniture, so yes, you have to put it together yourself. I always consider IKEA adult Legos. I have a lot of fun with it. Not everybody has that same joy with IKEA building as I do, and I understand that. I've actually had friends invite me over to build their IKEA furniture for them because they don't enjoy it, and they know I do.
All I suggest is just make sure to wood glue everything.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be 2 years down the line and you bump into it and then you realize that it's very shaky. You wood glue it, it stays together forever.
Now, I have seen some alternate versions of these things come out because IKEA kind of set the popularity track. I've seen this version at Target and Walmart's. I don't see anything wrong with those. They're a little bit on the cheaper end, so the quality of it staying together might be a little bit more questionable in the long run. But they're the same size and about 2/3 the price.
Yeah.
And I've seen people in the community say, hey, I just used the ones I got from Walmart. They're doing great.
Yeah. We're just lucky enough to live within like an hour of 2 separate IKEAs that for some reason are like 20 minutes apart. And then it's IKEA-less land for hundreds of miles.
Yeah, that sounds about right. There's other things I've seen. Bookshelves can be done very well. The only thing I would caution with a bookshelf solution is watch the weight of the games that you're putting on the shelves, because those bookshelves are meant for books, which, yes, can hold weight, but it's not the same as a board game.
It's going to be distributed differently. And
yeah.
If you have those ones that have the peg fit and then you put the shelf on top of it, if you start stacking a lot of weight in the middle and don't distribute it, it's going to split that right in half and the whole thing's coming down on you.
Or it's just going to bow and then you have to flip it over every 2 months.
Yeah.
I've had to do that before with other things. So, just take a look at what you've got. There's a lot of different shelving, closet organizers I've seen being used very well. So it all depends. What do you want to do? Do you want to display your stuff? Do you want to closet it like we used to back in the day?
Hide your shame.
It's not shame. Or is it? You decide.
Yeah.
The only other piece I would say is another solution, and I've seen people split on this. I live in an apartment complex, or my wife doesn't like this hobby and I need to condense my stuff because these boxes take up space. There's no denying it.
Yeah.
It was a Kickstarter at first, and I think you can still order it because they finally got essentially the startup money to go. A solution that I've seen a couple of my friends who have larger collections or limited space use called Bit Box. Bit being the pieces of the game, box being a box. You can take any board game and put it in a bit box, and it will probably reduce it by 75% space. The boards, like the cardboard board game board itself, gets slid in one spot, and then everything else goes in these little cardboard like mini boxes, like you would for your Magic cards or things of that nature. And then it's all modular. You handwrite what is in it. I've seen people cut out the pictures and paste the pictures on the outside, kind of like a library system. But you can take the collection that would fit in a Calyx down to a quarter of what it used to be. You are getting rid of the core boxes. It's not going to have the art of the box or anything like that. You're literally getting rid of all the pieces and taking just the bits of the game into the system. That's where I've seen the split on, because people really like board game boxes. They're very nice. They're very pretty. But if space is a feature, this is a way to get rid of a lot of excess space.
Not everyone is like you, Justin. Not everyone can have their own board game room that we're currently sitting in.
Right.
Walls lined with board games. Some people, this is all the space they have in their room, and they have to fit a bed, a desk, and so much more.
Yes.
I'm not harping on you. I love the board game room, and I'm actually very jealous because once I get my own board game room, I'm probably going to be way too old.
Yeah, not everybody has a room that they can dedicate to the hobby. I get that. That's why I'm not against people using bit boxes. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful solution.
And honestly, right now, you have a whole room dedicated for games, and you don't have enough room for all these games.
It's because I have to do a lot of reorganizing.
Yeah, you do.
And work has been a little too heavy for me to do that.
I don't blame you. I'm just judging you to the fullest extent of my imagination.
Oh, that sounds right. So that is what I would say is some of the more popular or more mainstream storage solutions. Anything that you can make happen work, do it. Because, it's your stuff. Find a way to store it.
Well, only other thing I would suggest is also double check with a manufacturer that you love that has multiple games out. Because you will be able to find the one-off where the manufacturer knows, hey, we've put out a lot of stuff in the past few years, and you bought a lot of stuff in the past few years. Let's give you something to put everything into. I mean, the biggest one that anyone's ever going to know is going to be Cards Against Humanity. Put out the bigger, blacker box that had all the room for all the cards.
Yes.
But then we go into things like Boss Monster has a nice big box to put all your cards into. Sentinels of the Multiverse, and like we just talked about, that is a very nice setup.
Scythe has the Legendary box, which holds not only Scythe, but all the expansions into it. And on that note, there's also Mystic Veil Conclave box does that, as well as Smash Up. So, yeah, sometimes the board game companies realize that we're going to release a quote-unquote expansion with a very few components, if not anything. It may just be an empty box to store your crap in. But, yeah, there's different solutions for that. And sometimes those are very nice and pretty, so I do enjoy them.
And then the only other suggestion I have is go check your local craft store. Because you never know. I love I mean, I do a lot of stuff with miniatures, and I've done lots of stuff with miniatures for a long time. So
that also reminds me, plano boxes.
Plano boxes.
If you don't like baggies, plano boxes. Oh my god, those things are so useful.
Yeah.
For tokens, and then you just kind of like sit down the table, pop it open, and there's all your tokens for the game.
And so get creative with it. You can definitely find some things that help out, like the plano boxes. They also have jewelry boxes are great for minis, or tackle boxes, like tackle boxes you take out for fishing.
Yep.
There are a lot of people who just go and buy those purely for taking X-Wing to and from the game shop.
I have a tackle box for my X-Wing.
Exactly. So
it lives in there, and I'm gonna need a bigger tackle box because there's four more factions coming for 2.0. Technically, 2 of them already exist, but they're getting their own factions.
Yeah, I didn't really think out this whole Star Wars Legion thing. Because once everything's all said and done, I'm going to need to get some real nice foam.
Yep.
What is that foam?
Pluck foam.
Pluck foam, yeah.
Yeah.
Which also, again, pluck foam.
If you're a miniatures person or want to paint your own miniatures for these board games and want to make sure that they don't scuff against each other and destroy the beautiful painting job you did, yeah, foam. Pluck foam is a very good tray.
Yeah.
So, lots of different storage solutions, lots of different options out there for you. Anything else?
I think that's it for me. I mean, we've gone over quite a bit, and I know a lot of the brand names are quick, because honestly, just go look them up, see if they have what you want. Otherwise, you're stuck like we've been for years upon years, where it was up to us to figure out how to store the stuff that we loved.
It's true. So next episode, we'll be talking about pimping out your game, upgrades, and things you could do to take that cardboard token, cardboard piece, basic, boring miniature, and dial it up to 10 and make your basic game a little more swanky.
That's what I like to hear. I love swanking up the place.
Till next time, this is Justin.
And this is Ricky. Roll on.
Just roll on.
Just roll on. Just keep on rolling.
You've been listening to Tabletop Arcanum, hosted by Justin Taylor and Richard Geese, and featuring the original music by Paul Moore and Isaac Gilbert. You can follow us on most social media platforms. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave us a review on whatever platform you listen to podcasts. As always, thanks for listening.